Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review was of the 1958 Don Siegel film, The Lineup, with Eli Wallach and Robert Keith and Warner Anderson. This is part of Indicator's Volume 1 of Columbia Noir, which no doubt will appear in a box set battle at some point. This is one of two films in the set that the title doesn't really have much to do with the film. The first one is The Undercover Man with Glenn Ford, which at no point does any character in the film go undercover. And this one is The Lineup, but the lineup doesn't really have much to do with the story. It was based from a radio show and then a TV show on CBS, strange enough, called The Lineup. And it starts off as a police procedural, and then it takes a very strange left turn and becomes a completely different film. Like I said, made in 1958, same year as Touch of Evil, and it has a bit of that Touch of Evil weirdness. I would say the extras on this disc are awesome because you don't actually get one commentary, you get two commentaries. The first commentary is by the author James Elroy and Film Noir Foundation's Eddie Muller from 2009. And then there's a commentary with film historian David Duvall, who I believe his dad Jamie Duvall might have produced the film, and author C. Courtney Joyner from 2020. There's a 7-minute appreciation of film noir featuring a lineup by none other than Christopher Nolan. There's a 7-minute kind of shot the streets of San Francisco, because obviously Don Siegel would later return to San Francisco for Dirty Harry, and there's quite a number of locations that kind of share with Dirty Harry. There's 3 episodes of the radio series, which are all about half an hour each, and there's a Three Stooges film called Tricky Dicks. There's 3 Stooges films that run through the Columbia Noir set. The trailer, and there's a trailer commentary by the History of Violence screenwriter Josh Olson. So it's a really nice set as far as the extras are concerned, and it's a really interesting, strange film. So like I say, it's based on a TV show of the same name, and it stars Warner Anderson as Detective Ben Guthrie, who was also in the TV show. And it opens up with a man who comes out of an airport. One of his bags is stolen and thrown into a cab. The cab drives off, runs over a police officer, kills him dead. The police officer manages to shoot the cab driver and he's dead. And then Detective Guthrie and his partner, who is played by the same actor who played the corrupt cop in Sweet Smell of Success, they investigate, they interview the guy whose bag was stolen. Turns out he's come back from an exotic locale overseas, and he's carrying some artifacts, and they take the artifacts back, and it appears as though there's heroin in the statue. So they obviously want to find the cop killer, and they want to find the porter who threw the bag into the cab. So they have a lineup of the title of the film. That's the only lineup that is in the film. It's just about finding the porter, who isn't identified in the lineup. A porter, or the porter that they were looking for, ends up dead in the bay, so he's fished out. And then the film kind of takes a bit of a left turn with the introduction of Robert Keith and Eli Wallach. This was only Eli Wallach's second film, and he is essentially a hitman. Robert Keith is his kind of handler / tutor. He's teaching him to be the best hitman in the business. Robert Keith's character has a little notebook which he writes down people's last words as they're killed, which is a nice little quirk. He's very philosophical about the nature of violence and the nature of the criminal mind. It's a very odd film. Richard Jaeckel turns up as the driver that's going to drive these two around town as they track down the other artifacts that other people were carrying, and they're trying to recover the drugs for the man, who is the big criminal boss, but he's just referred to as the man. It's very strange. Richard Jaeckel, again, is an early performance by him. He's the driver, but he needs a little bit of alcohol to make him drive better and be sharper, and Robert Keith's character doesn't like that, so he tries to be sober for the film while he's driving them about. There's odd little vignettes as Eli Wallach tries to get the drugs back out of these dolls or statues. There's a woman and her daughter, and the daughter has one of the dolls, which kind of leads into the climax of the film. There is, if you were a fan of Richard Widmark throwing somebody in a wheelchair down some stairs in Kiss of Death, this film tops that. The scene where, because we learn what happened to the drugs that were in the doll, which is quite a neat little twist. So Eli Wallach and his partner want to explain to the man what happened, and that meeting with the man is quite wonderful. There's lots of kind of metaphysical, strange dialogue that's spoken. You kind of get the sense that the first part of the film, which is probably the least interesting part of the film, is for the tie-in to the lineup, the TV show, and then the rest of the film has almost drifted in from a random place in the 70s. San Francisco almost looks like an alien landscape. There's lots of space. There's stuff shot at the pier, and it seems to be wide open. There's not a lot of people about. It has this very strange vibe. The kind of chase at the end is on an unfinished freeway. There is some brutal violence in a film that's from 1958. Eli Wallach is kind of wonderfully psychopathic, probably more sociopathic. A character asks him why he does this and what makes him tick, and he's like, I used to have an old man, but I never met him. As if that's like the justification for it. So he has a kind of controlled, cool performance to start with before he kind of unravels. Again, Robert Keith's character is just quite strange as well. as he writes down all these little last words that gives him a lot of pleasure, writing down people's last words before they die. It's just a really odd little film, and again, it perfectly sums up Indicator for me. It perfectly sums up these box sets. You never quite know what you're going to get. The extras are always great, but every now and again you get a little gem. Again, you could argue, if you're being critical of Indicator, you could say, oh, they don't have many, masterpieces in their collection. Granted, that's subjective, but what they do have is plenty of 4-star films, plenty of films that take you by surprise, plenty of films that you're just not aware of, that just take your breath away, and The Lineup is one of those films. Especially the last hour was just breathtaking. Don Siegel always claimed that, he was a whore and he was just a director for hire, and he just turned up and did what he did and went home again. But there's a lot of really nicely composed shots in this film, again with this weird open San Francisco landscape. There's really a lot of nice shots and nice setups. Obviously directs action very well. It just has a weird feel to it, a kind of feverish anxiety to it. Again, I also love the fact that heroin is also mentioned, but of course we never find out what heroin does to people or anything. It's just like, well, yes, it's heroin, because it is 1958. Yeah, an odd little film, but also quite a wonderful little film. And personally, I can't wait for Indicator's Columbia Volume 2 set, which comes out in February, I believe, because the first one is a lot of fun. But yeah, The Lineup, a very odd, strange, schizophrenic film almost, but also quite wonderful. So please leave a comment below if you've seen The Lineup and what you thought of it. And hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. And again, the Columbia Noir box set volume 1, which is Eli Wallach in the front, will probably make an appearance in another box set battle. So thanks so much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.